The school gates. A Rolls-Royce Cullinan purred to a stop, the chauffeur respectfully opening the rear door. A moment later, a young man stepped out. He looked about 18, with a ramrod straight posture and strikingly handsome features. More than a few girls arriving for school particulars, their hearts fluttering, couldn't help but want to get closer. But the young man's expression was cold, giving off an unapproachable, keep-out vibe. The young man's name was Ethan Vance. Right now, he was in a royally bad mood. Then again, anyone in his shoes would be feeling the same. He was a transmigrator. Before he'd been zapped into this world, he was an orphan struggling in the big city. Nearly 30, he was still a nobody, couldn't even get a girl, a complete and utter loser from top to bottom. It seemed like every crappy thing life could throw at a person had landed accessorios him. After transmigration, he became a rich kid. Great family background, devilishly handsome, top-tier student. Every day, a Cullinan chauffeured him to and from school. He had more pocket money than he could ever spend. If this had happened to anyone else, they'd probably laugh themselves awake from a dream. And in fact, for the first few days after arriving, he had felt ecstatic, even laughing in his sleep. After all, his previous life had been such a dumpster fire. To suddenly have such a privileged existence, anyone would be thrilled. But he quickly realized things weren't that simple. The class dunce had recently seen a miraculous surge in his grades and, at the same time, had gotten chummy with the class academic representative, who also happened to be the school beauty. Everyone knew that Ethan Vance and the school beauty were a match made in heaven. Though, admittedly, the school beauty herself never acknowledged this. When the dunce and the school beauty started getting close, Ethan's lackeys couldn't resist trying to curry favor. So, yesterday, they'd cornered the dunce, intending to teach him a profound lesson. 3 against 1, it looked like a complete beatdown in the making. But the result? His 3 goons got their asses handed to them. Ethan Vance, who'd devoured countless web novels in his past life, felt a sense of déjà vu. Wasn't this the classic underdog rises up and wins over the school beauty trope from urban novels? And his own background, status, and everything else? It perfectly matched the template of a rich second-generation villain. The thought particulars, and Ethan couldn't help but chuckle, thinking he was probably overthinking it. But just then, the standard starter pack system for transmigrators appeared. Its name, the Super Villain System. Through the system, he learned he'd transmigrated into a parallel world based on a power fantasy urban novel. His role was undeniable, a bona fide rich kid villain, a tool for the protagonist to face slap. In the main storyline, he'd constantly clash with the protagonist, suffer defeat after defeat, and probably wouldn't even last 100 chapters before the protagonist utterly ruined him and his family. His family's fortune would be seized by the protagonist, and the school beauty he liked would also end up with the protagonist. What the hell? I could have transmigrated as anything, but I had to become the villain? And I won't even last 100 chapters? Are you messing with me? Ethan cursed inwardly to blow off steam. But what was done, he knew he couldn't change it. Of course, that didn't mean he'd just roll over and accept his fate. Looking at recent events, the plot was clearly just beginning. The protagonist was still in his early growth phase, not yet strong enough to face him head-on. Ethan had far more resources than the protagonist. If he played his cards right, and with his newfound caution, even a villain like him had a chance to turn the tables. Boss. As he was mulling things over, a guy in a baseball cap particulars from behind. Under the brim, faint bruises were visible on his face. Clearly, he'd been in a fight. This was one of Ethan Vance's 3 main henchmen, Ken. The other 2 were Tommy and Rick. Just listen to those names. Ken, Tommy, and Rick. Classic goon names. These 3 were obviously part of the villain's entourage. Clearly, this was the work of some sadistic, troll author with a twisted sense of humor. Ken looked awkward, avoiding Ethan's gaze. It was, admittedly, a total embarrassment. 3 on 1, and they still lost. After being stared down for a while, Ken finally caved and took the blame. Boss, lay it on us, whatever you want. We messed up and made you look bad. Why are you alone? Where are the other 2? Ethan didn't scold, just asked. He knew scolding was pointless. The protagonist had plot armor, he wasn't going to be easily taken down by three stooges like them. Seeing Ethan wasn't angry, Ken let out a small sigh of relief and sidled closer, grinning. "Boss, I ran faster, so I didn't get hit carbides much. They were a bit slower and got it worse. Half their faces are swollen, probably gonna take a few days to go down." Ethan was speechless in Ken's expression and demeanor. What kind of moron had this troll author assigned him as a lackey? Ran faster, got hit less, and he was proud of it? What, did he want a pat on the back? If you crack another smile, I'm slapping it off your face. Ethan really couldn't stand the idiotic grin on this dim-witted goon's face and snapped. "Boss, no, my bad, no more smiling." Ken quickly apologized, then added, "Don't worry, boss, I'll definitely get him back for this. I don't believe that punk has 3 heads and 6 arms. I'm calling 10 of the guys today. Get real." "It's useless," Ethan shook his head. They'd already tipped their hand. The protagonist was on guard, and with his plot armor, sending more guys would just be giving him more punching bags. Even if the protagonist couldn't win, he'd definitely escape easily. It was pointless. Useless? Then, boss, I'll call 20? Why are you so damn chatty? I said it's useless. No way, then I'll call 30, just to be sure. Yeah, call your mom. Ethan couldn't help. Call my mom? Boss, that won't work. My mom's too frail, she can't fight. Ken said with a pained expression. Ethan rubbed his temples. What kind of idiot was this? Suppressing the urge to hit him, Ethan calmed himself. Don't do stuff like this. Huh? Boss, that punk is hitting on your girl. He's a nobody, we really couldn't stand by and watch. Ken said. Let me ask you, am I better looking, or is that punk better looking? Ethan retorted. Obviously, you're way better looking, boss. That punk is nothing, decent features at best. Ken answered without hesitation, and there was no flattery in it, it was the truth. So, is my family wealthier, or is his family wealthier? Ethan continued. Your family's worth hundreds of millions, boss. His family is just average. There's no comparison. So, am I a better student, or is he? You're top 10 in the whole school, boss, a true academic ace. That punk is at the bottom, a total slacker. So, there you have it. With my advantages, do you think I'd lose to some broke loser from the bottom of the class? Why are you guys meddling in things that don't concern you? Boss, I get it. We were out of line. Without your orders, we won't butt in again. That punk is not even in your league. Ken finally understood. Ethan nodded, looking at his dim-witted goon with an expression reserved for idiots. Suddenly, a system notification popped up in his mind. Ding! Corrected a henchman's behavior, slightly altering the plot's direction. Received 100 villain points. This sudden development particularized Ethan for a moment. It was the first time he'd received such a notification since acquiring the supervillain system. At the same time, a panel appeared in his mind. He opened it. Host, Ethan Vance. Combat power, 89 charm, 198. For the above 2 stats, the average adult male value is 100. Villain aura, 99 villain points, 100. Skills, none. This data panel particulars his current stats. Ethan's family was wealthy, he was always chauffeured, and he barely exercised, so his combat power being below average was normal. His charm, however, was nearly double the average. That was undeniable. Handsome, smart, rich. He was the acknowledged school heartthrob, countless girls had secret crushes on him. System, what's villain aura? Is 99 a lot or a little? Ethan communicated with the system telepathically. Reply to host, villain aura is unique to you, just as the protagonist has a protagonist aura. The protagonist aura will not be lower than 300 at its minimum. The host's score of 99 is a bit low, you might kick the bucket relatively quickly. Damn it! Ethan cursed silently, then asked, so, is there any way to increase my villain aura score? Successfully suppressing the protagonist, seizing the protagonist's opportunities, stealing the female leads, and various other methods can increase the villain aura score. Stealing the female leads? I like the sound of that. Ethan perked up, pressing further. So, if my villain aura score is equal to or higher than the protagonist's, does that mean I won't kick the bucket? Host's understanding is not entirely accurate. When your score equals the protagonist's, you will be the biggest final boss villain and can last until the grand finale before kicking the bucket. Only when the host's score surpasses the protagonist's will you not kick the bucket, but that only means you won't die. In other words, I'll still have a miserable end, I just won't die. Ethan felt a headache coming on, then steeled himself and asked, so, can I take out the protagonist? Congratulations, host, for finally achieving villainous enlightenment. The more your score surpasses the protagonist's, the higher your chances of taking him out. Looks like I'm destined to be at odds with the protagonist. Ethan was fully enlightened. So, what are villain points for? Villain points can be used for lottery draws and to exchange for items in the super villain shop to help the host fight against the protagonist. They can also be used to check the stats and information of the protagonist, female leads, and important supporting characters. Shop? Where's the shop? Open it for me. Ethan urged. The super villain shop is currently locked. It will automatically unlock when the host's villain points reach 500. Then how do I get villain points? Altering the original plot's direction, successfully suppressing the protagonist, any action beneficial to the host can earn villain points. After the system answered his questions, Ethan had a general understanding and began to strategize how to deal with the protagonist. Call those other two clowns and get them to school. Ethan ordered Ken. Ken looked bewildered. What? Just do it. Don't ask so many questions. Ethan cut him off, preempting a barrage of stupid queries. Right. Ken pulled out his phone and immediately complied. After hanging up, Ken reported that Tommy and Rick were on their way to school. Ethan nodded. The two of them walked across the campus towards their classroom. Hey, isn't that our future sister-in-law? Morning. Ken hollered towards a girl not far away. Ethan followed his gaze and saw a female student. She was tall and slender, with a cascade of beautiful, dark hair. Her skin was fair, and her delicate features were arranged on a small, oval face with almost golden ratio perfection. Even in a plain school uniform, her youthful, vibrant beauty couldn't be concealed. A girl like this would stand out in any crowd. Her name was Chloe Sue. She was the academic representative of Ethan's class and the universally acknowledged school beauty. Naturally, she was also the female lead, or more accurately, one of them. Because, according to the usual tropes of urban novels, how could the protagonist only have one school beauty female lead? Chloe Sue was smart and beautiful, a perfect match for Ethan Vance in theory. In the entire school, no boy was as outstanding as Ethan. If this were real life, how could Chloe not like him? But the moronic author of this novel had forcefully established in the plot that Chloe felt nothing for Ethan, even a slight dislike. Yet, Ethan was supposedly deeply infatuated with Chloe, chasing her like a devoted simp. Why say that? Because with Ethan's excellent qualifications, he could easily charm countless beautiful girls. But Ethan was fixated only on Chloe Sue, ignoring all other women. As the plot progressed, Chloe, having completely fallen for the protagonist, became utterly obedient to him. Thus, instigated by the protagonist, Chloe even used Ethan's affection for her to help the protagonist bring about Ethan's demise. And as Ethan lay dying, because he loved Chloe so deeply, he didn't even blame her. The Ethan Vance of the original story truly had a miserable lot. Screw that moron author. I'm not going to let that tragic ending happen to me. Ethan cursed inwardly, then began to organize his thoughts. It was still early in the plot. Chloe only saw the protagonist as an ordinary classmate. And her feelings towards him, Ethan, were only a slight dislike and awkwardness. Sure enough. Hearing Ken obnoxiously call her future sister-in-law, Chloe was both angry and embarrassed, her fair face blushing several shades redder. A few passing students also heard the commotion and looked over. Some small groups of students were whispering, probably gossiping about her. Chloe knew Ethan's lackeys often called her boss's girl in class. It annoyed her. Now they were shouting it in the schoolyard, right in front of her. People in class knew she and Ethan weren't like that, they knew boss's girl was just teasing. But students from other classes didn't know the situation. She had no idea what others would be saying behind her back. Ken, you stop talking nonsense. I have nothing to do with Ethan Vance. Don't call me boss's girl or anything like that. Chloe, blushing, tried to correct the address. Isn't it just a matter of time? Anyway, you're definitely gonna be our boss's girl. Hurry up and get with our boss. Ken grinned. What do you mean I'm your boss's girl? Don't talk. From now on, you're not allowed to call me that. Chloe stomped her foot. Boss's girl, boss's girl, boss's girl. The more Chloe forbade it, the more Ken wanted to say it, and louder, attracting even more onlookers. It made Chloe so mad her ears turned red. Shut up. Ethan barked. Ken instantly clammed up. Then, Ethan moved a little closer to Chloe, stopping about a meter in front of her. What's he going to do? Hug me in public? Or worse, try to kiss me? Chloe had a bad feeling and instinctively took a step back, wanting to escape. But Ken blocked her path. However, Chloe had made up her mind to resist fiercely. Apologize, Ethan said. Did you hear that? Hurry up and apologize. Ken, though confused why the boss wanted Chloe to apologize, still, with a henchman's instinct, bared his teeth and reiterated it to Chloe. However, no sooner had the words left his mouth than Ken got a whack on the head. Boss, why'd you hit me? He asked, bewildered. I told you to apologize to Chloe Sue. And also, don't call her boss's girl anymore, Ethan said. Ha? Ha what? Hurry up and apologize. Oh. Ken obediently bowed to Chloe. Sorry, Chloe Sue, my bad. I won't call you names anymore. Ethan looked at the astonished Chloe. That boss's girl stuff was just them fooling around, it has nothing to do with me. I won't let them call you that anymore. Anyone, I'll shut their mouth. As for those rumors saying I like you and I'm determined to get you, I need to clarify, that's false. We're in senior year, academics are the priority. Dating? I'm not really thinking about that right now. Don't overthink it. Alright, that's all. With that, Ethan turned and walked towards the classroom without a backward glance, leaving a stunned Chloe rooted to the spot. Ding! Altered female lead Chloe Sue's perception of the host. Favorability plus 20. Current total favorability, 10, ordinary acquaintance, ... Ding! Host has influenced the original plot's direction. Received 200 villain points. Ethan had just reached the classroom door when he heard the system notifications. He wasn't particularly surprised. Chloe's previous dislike for him was largely due to those rumors. Think about it, a young girl who had never dated would naturally be sensitive. Dedicated to her studies, she would naturally find it very annoying. Ethan himself hadn't done anything too out of line to Chloe yet. Now that Ethan had clarified things and warned his lackeys not to use such terms casually, Chloe naturally wouldn't harbor ill will towards Ethan. 10 favorability points, the system rated it as acquaintance, the typical favorability level among ordinary classmates. With his current relationship with Chloe, Ethan was now on the same starting line as the protagonist. Besides the increase in favorability, he also gained villain points. Ethan checked his current attribute panel. Host, Ethan Vance. Combat power, 89 charm, 198 villain aura, 99. Villain points, 300 skills, none 300 villain points. Another 200 and I can unlock the system shop. I wonder what goodies it has. It'd be great if there's something that can boost my combat power, Ethan mused. Given how protagonists in these stories tended to leapfrog in power and crush their enemies, their combat power would definitely far exceed the average of 100. And as the story progressed, the protagonist's combat strength would surely get even higher. Ethan, on the other hand, hadn't even reached the average of 100. In a one-on-one fight, he was no match at all. Just as Ethan was thinking this, he suddenly felt a pair of eyes in the classroom staring intently at him. Deep within those eyes, there was a hint of hatred. The owner of this gaze was the bottom-ranking protagonist, Alex Chu. The name alone sounded significant. He most likely had a protagonist's aura. Why? Because the four great protagonists' surnames in web novels were Yi, Lin, Xiao, and Chu. This was the fourth-ranked surname. Ethan naturally understood the reason for Alex Chu's hateful stare. Ken, Tommy, and Rick had blocked Alex Chu's path after school yesterday. Alex Chu definitely thought Ethan had ordered it. But in reality, it was those three acting on their own. However, Ethan had no intention of explaining. There was no need. He was the villain, destined to be at odds with the protagonist. System, check Alex Chu's stats for me, Ethan issued a command. Checking requires 100 villain points. Proceed? Yes. Although Ethan had learned some information about the original plot from the system, it was vague in general, mostly about how tragic his end as a villain would be, how tragic his relatives' ends would be, how happy the protagonist would be, and so on. After spending the villain points, Alex Chu's attribute panel appeared. Protagonist, Alex Chu Combat Power, 155 Charm, 100. Protagonist Aura, 357 Skills, X-Ray Vision 0, so he's a protagonist with X-Ray Vision. Ethan initially felt a pang for the 100 villain points, but after obtaining this key piece of information, he immediately felt it was worth it. Know thyself, know thy enemy, and you will never be defeated. Now that he knew Alex Chu's golden finger, dealing with him would be a bit easier. A charm score of only 100, just average. An average Joe face. Yet this guy in the original story managed to woo so many beautiful girls. It was utterly illogical. And he, with his enhanced charm of 198, didn't have a single girl. Outrageous. A combat power of 155, on the other hand, was outstanding, half again above average. In the original story, relying on his superior combat power, Alex Chu had numerous heroes save the damsel moments, winning the hearts of beautiful girls. But on this point, Ethan really wanted to complain. In today's peaceful society, where were there so many thugs, and why did Alex Chu always run into them? And saving the damsel successfully was one thing. But those girls actually fell for Alex Chu because of it. This was too exaggerated. In this money-driven society, being handsome and rich was king. How could a plain-looking guy who could fight make a girl fall for him just because he saved her once? And he, a rich second generation with enhanced charm, was disliked by the female lead. On what grounds? System, if I hire people to take out Alex Chu directly, what's the success rate? Ethan decided to be direct. The opponent's protagonist aura score is relatively high. With your current villain aura score, the success rate is close to 0. Damn it, I knew it. Ethan cursed inwardly, extremely unconvinced, and said, close to 0 means there's still a tiny chance, right? I can at least try? It is not recommended for the host to perform this operation. The protagonist is protected by his aura. When faced with a major crisis, it will inevitably trigger an opportunity. The protagonist will not only resolve the crisis but also become stronger. This is extremely disadvantageous to the host. The protagonist aura is too damn overpowered. Ethan was extremely frustrated. Please do not be discouraged, host. You can continuously weaken the protagonist aura by seizing his opportunities in female leads, then increase your villain aura score before attempting such an operation. Looks like I can only seize his opportunities in girls step by step, shatter his protagonist aura. If I don't, I'm just a dead man walking. Ethan firmed his resolve. While Ethan and the system were conversing, Chloe Sue also entered the classroom. That Alex Chu immediately stopped staring daggers at Ethan and ran towards Chloe Sue with a wide grin. Alex Chu, for some reason, had shaved his originally ear-length hair into a very short buzz cut. This hairstyle was really hard for an average-looking person to pull off. It would highlight all facial flaws. Alex Chu, with his plain face, was a prime example. His wide grin looked rather ugly. But seeing him smile so brightly, and without a mirror in front of him, he was certainly unaware. Chloe, you're here. There's still a while before morning self-study. I have a lot of academic questions I want to ask you. Are you free? Alex Chu smiled at Chloe Su. Yes. As the academic representative and a kind-hearted person, Chloe Su would naturally not refuse a classmate's request for help with studies. Come on, let's go to your seat. I'll help you with your bag, Alex Chu said enthusiastically. No need, Chloe Su shook her head. If it weren't for your tutoring, my grades wouldn't have jumped from the bottom 10 of the class to the middle ranks. Helping you with small things is what I should do. It's mainly because you're naturally smart. What I said was basically what the teachers taught in class. If you listened attentively, your grades would definitely be good. No, it's mainly because Chloe is so beautiful. I can absorb everything you teach. Chloe Su blushed at the compliment. Alex Chu seized the opportunity to reach for Chloe Su's bag. While taking the bag, he also tried to accidentally brush against Chloe Su's hand. But he didn't succeed. Ethan Vance watched the scene and couldn't help but sigh. It had to be said, at a relatively young age, a thick-skinned boy pursuing a girl really had a huge advantage. This Alex Chu was just like that. Ethan Vance knew that Alex Chu's academic improvement was entirely due to his X-ray vision. The last test was all thanks to cheating. Pestering Chloe Su for tutoring was just an excuse to hit on her. Ethan Vance saw through all this and naturally couldn't turn a blind eye. Just as Alex Chu was about to sit down next to Chloe Su's deskmate, Ethan Vance walked over with an exercise book and asked directly, Chloe Su, did you do the math homework Mr. Harrison assigned yesterday? I did, but I'm not sure if my answers are correct. Chloe Su no longer disliked Ethan Vance, so she naturally answered his academic questions. I wrote down an answer too, but I'm not sure if it's right. How about we compare and discuss? Okay. Chloe Su nodded eagerly. Chloe, I was here first, Alex Chu interjected. Just a moment, wait a bit, Chloe Su wanted to discuss the math problem with Ethan Vance first. This math problem was very difficult, exceeding high school math knowledge, a challenge chosen for top students. Probably only Ethan Vance and Chloe Su in the entire class would do this math problem after class. Ethan Vance suggested discussing it, and Chloe Su was naturally very willing. Alex Chu stood awkwardly, listening to Ethan Vance and Chloe Su's discussion as if it were a foreign language, completely clueless. Ethan Vance discussed with Chloe Su while glancing at Alex Chu's stiff expression, smirking inwardly. When it came to common ground and topics, he and Chloe Su, both top students, had much more in common. This handsome boy and beautiful girl made eye contact frequently, talking and laughing. Those nearby knew they were discussing academic problems, those couldn't see clearly might think they were dating. Ethan Vance deliberately prolonged the academic discussion, and Chloe Su, engrossed, unknowingly ignored Alex Chu's presence. Morning self-study was about to start. Ethan Vance, you deliberately came over to discuss problems with Chloe, your intentions are clearly not pure. Discussing problems is just an excuse, your real goal is to get close to Chloe, to have improper thoughts about her. You're a hypocrite. Alex Chu finally couldn't take it anymore and directly interrupted their discussion with a shout. Hearing this, Ethan Vance burst out laughing. This guy used tutoring as an excuse to hit on Chloe Su, and that was perfectly fine. He imitated it a bit, and suddenly it wasn't. Damn, did he have to be such a double standard? Alex Chu, you misunderstood Ethan Vance, Chloe Su frowned. Because Ethan Vance had previously made it clear that he wanted to focus on studying and had no such thoughts about her, and had even warned his lackeys not to talk nonsense. The kind-hearted Chloe Su naturally chose to believe what Ethan Vance said. I didn't misunderstand. You've been tutoring me during this period, he didn't like it, so yesterday he had his lackeys block my way after school and said you were his private property, warning me to stay away from you, Alex Chu said to Chloe Su. Chloe Su, upon hearing this, looked at Ethan Vance in surprise. I didn't order this, Ken and the others did it on their own, Ethan Vance explained. Never mind that he didn't do it, even if he had, this would be his answer. He was a villain. Villains would do anything to achieve their goals, lying was as common as eating. If you're a man, you should own up to what you've done, Alex Chu goaded. He wanted Ethan Vance to admit to this, to make Chloe Su wary of Ethan Vance and keep her distance. Hey, you didn't finish your sentence. Ken and his 3 buddies did block your way, but they were the ones who got beaten up. You're completely fine, Ethan Vance turned the tables. That's because I'm good. How could three little punks be my match? Alex Chu snorted proudly. Speaking of this, he couldn't help but feel a little smug. Alex Chu was a bad student, often skipping class and hanging out with delinquents. Fights were common, and over time, he developed some serious fighting skills, and he fought dirty and viciously. Ethan Vance beckoned Ken over from inside the classroom. Take off your hat, let Chloe Sue see what you look like after being beaten. Although Ken wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, hearing this, he understood that the boss wanted to expose Alex Chu in front of Chloe Sue. He immediately took off his hat, revealing his swollen face. Chloe Sue had noticed something on Ken's face earlier. Now she finally understood the reason and frowned. How did you get beaten like this? This is nothing. Tommy and Rick got it way worse. We knelt and begged for mercy, but it was no use. Alex Chu chased us and beat us like he wanted to kill us. Ken rubbed the bruises on his face, looking extremely aggrieved, almost on the verge of tears. You deserved it, Alex Chu said indifferently. Even if Ken and his friends started it, and you were defending yourself, self-defense has its limits, right? Ethan Vance said. They don't have broken arms or legs, they should be thankful I went easy on them. In Alex Chu's eyes, he was in the right. No matter how badly he beat Ken and the others, it wasn't excessive. Chloe Sue listened, frowning. Few girls liked violence, and she was no exception. But Alex Chu was still reveling in the satisfaction of beating Ken, unaware of the subtle change in Chloe Sue's expression. Ethan Vance, however, noticed these minute details and was secretly pleased. At this moment, Tommy and Rick also walked into the classroom. Like Ken, they wore hats to cover up, their heads bowed low. Ethan Vance struck while the iron was hot, telling them not to be sneaky and to take off their hats. Instantly, two pig-like heads appeared in everyone's sight. Tommy's and Rick's faces were swollen beyond recognition, looking as if they'd been slapped countless times, with some skin broken. The sight was truly gruesome. Chloe Sue was startled and didn't dare to look. How could they be beaten like this? That's too vicious. Ethan Vance was shocked for a moment, then said to the surrounding people, in my opinion, both sides are at fault. How about this, Alex Chu apologizes to Ken and his friends, and I'll pay for their medical expenses. Let's call it even. What do you all think? Okay. No problem. I agree. The boss had spoken. Ken, Tommy, and Rick naturally agreed without thinking. It's best if this can be settled peacefully, Chloe Sue nodded in agreement. But would the protagonist easily apologize to the villain? Of course not. If he apologized, would he still be the protagonist? Sure enough, Alex Chu replied defiantly, apologize to them? My ass. No way. Alex Chu, just say sorry, Chloe Sue persuaded. It was clearly their fault. Why should I apologize? That's ridiculous. Most protagonists were chauvinistic and wouldn't listen to persuasion. Alex Chu was no exception. No one could convince him, not even Chloe Sue. Ding! Host has damaged the relationship between protagonist Alex Chu and female lead Chloe Sue, influencing the predetermined plot direction. Received 200 villain points. Ding! Female lead Chloe Sue's favorability towards Alex Chu -10. Current mutual favorability, 0, strangers. Ding! Alex Chu's protagonist aura -20. Host's villain aura +20. It actually worked. Hearing the 3 consecutive system notifications, Ethan Vance chuckled inwardly. With his maneuvering, the relationship between Alex Chu and Chloe Sue had turned into that of strangers. And Chloe Sue now had a favorability of 10 towards him. Comparatively, he was now in an advantageous position. But Ethan Vance certainly wouldn't underestimate Alex Chu. After all, he had the protagonist's aura protecting him. He might quickly regain Chloe Sue's favorability. Alex Chu's protagonist aura had only decreased by 20, which was far from enough. Ethan Vance checked his attribute panel. Host, Ethan Vance. Combat power, 89 charm, 198 villain aura, 119. Villain points, 400 skills, none. The previous villain aura of 99 had become 119, a slight increase. So far, Ethan Vance had accumulated a total of 500 villain points, but 100 were consumed when checking Alex Chu's information, leaving only 400. Still not enough to unlock the system shop. He had to keep working at it. During the break, Ethan Vance called his 3 lackeys to a corner to talk. "Boss, yesterday was our bad. We'd heard he could fight, but we didn't think he was that good, damn it. Boss, after school today, I'll call more guys. We'll definitely beat Alex Chu to a pulp," Tommy and Rick said resentfully. "Shut up, all of you," Ethan Vance snapped. If they followed their plan, Ethan Vance was willing to bet they definitely wouldn't be able to handle Alex Chu. Why? Because that was the cliché plotline of that moronic author. If he followed that path, he was doomed. "The boss told me before, no messing with Alex Chu without his permission." "You two, drop it," Ken said to Tommy and Rick. "So we just let it go?" Tommy asked, stunned. "Of course not," Ethan Vance sneered. "Oh, so the boss already has a plan to deal with Alex Chu. Ouch." Rick chuckled, wincing as the movement aggravated the wounds on his face. "This still depends on you guys," Ethan Vance said. "Boss, just give the order." The 3 lackeys looked ready to go through fire and water. "Go tell the teachers you were beaten up by Alex Chu," Ethan Vance said calmly. "Okay, boss, we'll go right." "Huh? Boss, what did you say? Tell the teachers?" Ken immediately jumped to accept the order, but halfway through, he realized something was wrong and was instantly dumbfounded. Tommy and Rick were also stunned. Although Ethan Vance was a top student and the school heartthrob, he also had another identity, the school tyrant. Tommy, Ken, and Rick were his 3 main underlings, and with this backing, they could practically walk sideways in school. They were very concerned about their image. Even though they were beaten, they wouldn't resort to such spineless tactics as tattling to teachers or parents. Besides, didn't their boss care about his own reputation? As the school tyrant, resolving conflicts without fists and violence? And going to tattle to the teachers? How embarrassing. Ethan Vance said to his 3 bewildered lackeys, "What's wrong? What are you all looking at?" When classmates have a disagreement and a fight breaks out, telling the teachers to resolve it is the best way to handle it. "Do you think I'd call in gangsters to chop him up? Please, I'm a rich kid, well-educated since childhood, an outstanding student in the top 10 of the whole school, not some triad boss." Ken, Tommy, and Rick looked at each other, unable to refute a single word. His words made perfect sense. And so, the 3 bruised and battered lackeys went together to the dean's office, discipline office. As soon as the bell for class rang, Alex Chu was summoned by the fierce-looking vice dean of discipline. Moments later, a beautiful woman in high heels and glasses, with striking features, appeared in the classroom. Her name was Ms. Jenna Song, 24 years old, the homeroom teacher and English teacher. Although she was young, she had a fiery temper and excellent teaching skills, keeping the students in her class in line. When she took attendance and found 4 students missing from morning self-study, she immediately became a little furious. This was senior year, time was tight, and yet they dared to skip morning self-study. This was simply unforgivable. The students in the class could vaguely see flames palavras on the beautiful teacher's head. But angry as she was, Ms. Jenna Song was still as beautiful as a painting. A beauty is a beauty, even when angry. Ethan Vance mused this inwardly, but an idea soon popped into his head. Could Ms. Song also be one of the female leads? A protagonist with X-ray vision, and a student at that. According to the tropes, a beautiful female teacher as a female lead was standard. Ethan Vance really wanted the system to investigate and confirm it, but spending 100 villain points was too painful. After some thought, he decided against it. He currently only had 400 villain points. It was better to save up to 500 and unlock the system shop first. Besides, there was no rush. Alex Chu, Ken, Tommy, and Rick, does anyone know why those 4 aren't here? Ms. Jenna Song asked the students. As the homeroom teacher, she naturally knew who sat where and could tell at a glance. Ms. Song, Alex Chu beat up Ken, Tommy, and Rick, leaving them bruised and battered, almost unrecognizable. The vice dean of discipline just came and took all 4 of them away. Ethan Vance stood up and reported, adding fuel to the fire. What? Fighting. Ms. Jenna Song's anger flared even more, her high-pitched voice making the students' ears ring.
You all self-study. Ethan Vance, maintain discipline.
With that, Ms. Jenna Song stormed out of the classroom, fuming. It didn't take a genius to know she was heading to the dean's office.
Ding! Lackeys beaten, host chose to inform the teacher, slightly altering the original plot's direction. Received 200 villain points. Ding! Host's current villain points exceed 500. System shop automatically unlocked. Ms. Jenna Song had just left when Ethan Vance received the system notifications.
This was within his expectations. His lackeys were beaten, and he had them report it to the teacher. This directly deviated from the usual villain playbook. It would be strange if the plot didn't change.
200 villain points. He gladly accepted them.
In his mind, besides his original attribute interface, a system shop interface had appeared. But the shop didn't display any items, only a lottery draw option.
I now have 600 villain points. What can I exchange them for? Show me everything, Ethan Vance directly asked the system. Reply to host, 600 villain points cannot be exchanged for any items. The cheapest item in the shop requires 1000 villain points. It is recommended that the host choose the lottery draw. Each draw only costs 500 villain points.
The host has a chance to win super luxurious rewards, but it's also possible to get nothing. I still need to save up another 400 to exchange for items, and I might not even get what I want.
Might as well go for the lottery draw. Ethan Vance decided to try his luck. A wheel appeared on the shop interface.
The wheel spun, and soon there was a result.
Ding!
Congratulations, host, on your explosive luck. You drew bedroom eyes, worth 1500 villain points.
Use immediately? From the name, it was easy to understand what this was. A man with bedroom eyes could easily charm women. This was good stuff. Ethan Vance, of course, chose to use it immediately.
Only, after using it, he took out his phone for a selfie, secretly checked his eyes, and found no change whatsoever. However, Ethan Vance noticed that the charm stat on his attribute panel had changed from the original 198 to 268.
These extra 70 charm points must be due to the bedroom eyes. Let's see what's different from before.
This thought popped into Ethan Vance's mind, so, the excuse of discussing the unfinished math problem from before, he got up and went to switch seats with Chloe Sue's deskmate.
He continued to discuss math problems with Chloe Sue.
Ethan Vance clearly felt that Chloe Sue was looking at him more often, and sometimes her gaze lingered on him for a long time.
Why are you looking at me like that? Is there something on my face? Ethan Vance deliberately asked.
No, I just think your eyes are really beautiful, Chloe Sue couldn't help saying. As soon as the words were out, Chloe Sue's face turned beet red, and she quickly averted her gaze. That shy demeanor of a young girl was simply too captivating.
Ding! Female lead Chloe Sue's favorability towards host plus 10. Current favorability, 20, very friendly, Ding! Alex Chu's protagonist aura minus 10. Host's villain aura plus 10. Looks like these bedroom eyes are quite useful. Not bad, not bad.
Looking at the attribute interface again, it had also changed.
Host, Ethan Vance combat power, 89 charm, 268. Villain aura, 129 villain points, 100 skills, none. After morning self-study, Alex Chu and his group still hadn't returned. Ethan Vance went directly to the dean's office to watch the show.
Just as he reached the entrance, he heard a cacophony of arguments.
Clearly, the issue hadn't been resolved satisfactorily and was still deadlocked. Ethan Vance leisurely stood at the entrance and watched.
The vice dean of discipline saw a student peeking and was about to shoo them away, but upon seeing it was Ethan Vance, he immediately swallowed his words. This was the advantage of being a villain, he had clout in school. Except for those aligned with the protagonist, everyone else would give him face.
After all, Ethan Vance's family background and academic achievements were out there for all to see.
The reason the fight incident was deadlocked was this: Ken and the others said they blocked Alex Chu's path after school because they didn't like him, which led to the fight. In the eyes of Ms. Jenna Song and the vice dean, both sides were at fault. Ken and his group were at fault for starting it. Alex Chu was at fault for not only easily knocking down Ken's trio but also slapping them a dozen times, leaving them bruised and swollen.
Both sides were wrong. But why weren't both punished? Because Ken's trio demanded to call the police.
This was naturally Ethan Vance's doing. Ken's trio struck first. Alex Chu was defending himself, but Alex Chu's actions were excessive, constituting excessive self-defense. Calling the police was perfectly justified.
But the school administration was 100% against this. Because once the police were involved, the matter would escalate, and the school's reputation would surely suffer.
Therefore, the vice dean and Ms. Jenna Song could only choose to mediate the conflict between Alex Chu and Ken's trio. Under mediation, Ken's trio also compromised, saying they'd let Alex Chu slap them back once, and then the matter would be dropped.
But how could Alex Chu agree to that? Which protagonist wasn't hard-headed? So he'd rather let Ken's group call the police. The school was even more displeased.
And so, it reached a stalemate.
Alex Chu, I've reasoned with you, but you're still being stubborn, right? Once the police get involved, this will become a big deal.
You could end up with a criminal record and get expelled from school.
Are you going to agree or not?
The vice dean of discipline, Mr. Stern, was a fierce-looking man in his late 40s or early 50s.
Seeing the deadlock, he resorted to threats. Mr. Stern, doing this will ruin Alex Chu's future. We can't do that, Ms. Jenna Song immediately objected. Ethan Vance quietly observed from the doorway.
Ms. Song had a fiery temper. Just moments ago, she looked ready to kill someone. But now, her face was full of anxiety, so protective of her student.
So kind-hearted.
Ms. Song's personality really seemed like one of the female leads.
Ms. Song, I've given him a chance.
He's the one being stubborn, so don't blame me. Mr. Stern had made up his mind. He had just spent tens of minutes talking himself hoarse, but Alex Chu refused to see reason. He had lost his patience and wouldn't listen to Ms. Jenna Song's persuasion anymore.
Ms. Jenna Song had only been at the school for 2 or 3 years, lacked seniority, and had no backing.
Mr. Stern didn't need to care about her opinion at all. Besides, he was acting in the school's best interest. Even if the school's higher-ups knew, they would approve of his actions.
Just like that, he's done for? Ethan Vance found it a bit hard to believe.
If Alex Chu was really expelled, his chances of interacting with Chloe Su and Ms. Jenna Song would be virtually nil, and he'd have no chance of winning them over. In that case, his protagonist aura would surely plummet.
And his own villain aura would skyrocket. Wouldn't Alex Chu be finished then? But then, Ethan Vance quickly saw an old man with graying hair walking straight towards the dean's office. Ethan Vance recognized him.
It was the principal.
Why is the principal suddenly coming here?
Ethan Vance was a little puzzled. Usually, the principal was rarely seen. Most school affairs were handled by the vice principals.
Many students in the school didn't even recognize him.
His sudden appearance here was indeed strange.
Could it be? Ethan Vance suddenly had a very bad feeling. As this thought crossed Ethan Vance's mind, he immediately went up to greet the principal very politely.
The old principal smiled back amicably, his attitude extremely friendly. Ethan Vance was a prominent figure among the students, and the old principal knew him.
Principal, is there anything I can help you with at the dean's office? Ethan Vance asked solicitously.
Nothing, I'm just taking a walk, the old principal said with a smile and a wave of his hand, then headed straight for the dean's office. I hope it's really nothing, Ethan Vance prayed silently. However, no sooner had this thought arisen than he heard the old principal, who had just entered the office, exclaim in surprise, "Young man, why are you here?"
"Oh, Grandpa, it's you? Why are you here?" Alex Chu's voice came through. Ethan Vance slapped his forehead, utterly dejected.
He just said the old principal was usually nowhere to be seen, and now he inexplicably strolls into the dean's office and even knows Alex Chu. The unfavorable situation Ethan Vance had painstakingly created for Alex Chu was about to be overturned in an instant. This protagonist aura was simply ridiculous. Ethan Vance patiently listened on. Through the conversation between the old principal and Alex Chu, he learned they knew each other because the old principal had been robbed, and Alex Chu had bravely stepped in. The rest of the cliché, Ethan Vance could guess. The old principal firmly vouched for Alex Chu's character, seemingly acting impartially but actually speaking up for Alex Chu, using all his wisdom and experience to persuade Ken and his group. Ken and his friends weren't very bright to begin with and were naturally led by the nose, almost forgetting everything Ethan Vance had instructed. The three of them were about to give in and drop the matter, forgiving Alex Chu just like that. Ethan Vance wouldn't just stand by and watch Alex Chu get off so easily. He quickly thought for a moment, then immediately composed a message and sent it to Ken. The message instructed Ken and his group to change their plan, to drop the idea of calling the police, and instead opt for a private settlement, making Alex Chu pay for their medical expenses. Looking at the old principal's attitude, he was definitely going to protect Alex Chu. There was no point in Ken and his group persisting with calling the police. They could only take a step back and create some minor trouble for Alex Chu. Although the old principal favored Alex Chu, he still handled matters fairly. When Ken and his group changed their tune and demanded medical expenses, he agreed. After some negotiation, Alex Chu had to pay $10,000 each for medical expenses, totaling $30,000. In addition, Alex Chu and Ken's group of 4 were all given demerits, to be announced school-wide, and had to write self-criticism letters. If another fight occurred, they would be expelled directly. The 4 of them left the dean's office one after another and headed towards their classroom. Ethan Vance was waiting at the top of the stairs. His 3 lackeys saw him and immediately ran over, chattering about how well they did. Ethan Vance didn't skimp on praising them. These 3 lackeys weren't the brightest, but they hadn't messed things up, which was enough to satisfy Ethan Vance, so a little praise was due. Of course, besides praise, there were rewards. Ethan Vance directly transferred $50,000 to each of them via his phone. They were still high school students, from average economic backgrounds, with monthly allowances of less than $1,000. Suddenly receiving $50,000 was a huge sum. How could they not be overjoyed? Their flattery immediately flowed, temporarily forgetting even the pain on their faces. At this moment, Alex Chu walked past the top of the stairs. He stared at Ethan Vance with cold, hateful eyes. The $30,000 in compensation would make his already not-so-wealthy family's situation even worse. Compared to Ken's trio, he hated Ethan Vance even more. He was unshakably convinced that Ken and his group blocking his path was Ethan Vance's doing. If Ken and his group hadn't blocked his path, he wouldn't have beaten them up, and he wouldn't have had to pay $30,000 in medical expenses. All of this was Ethan Vance's fault. Alex Chu silently vowed to make Ethan Vance pay a heavy price in the future. Of course, he wouldn't act rashly now. Because Alex Chu knew he couldn't confront Ethan Vance head-on at the moment. After all, Ethan Vance's family was too rich. In this society, money was power, and money meant connections. But Alex Chu believed that he would eventually be able to deal with Ethan Vance, even crush the Vance family, and trample them underfoot. With his X-ray vision, getting rich and reaching the pinnacle of life was only a matter of time. Due to the incident involving Alex Chu and Ken's group, homeroom teacher Ms. Jenna Song temporarily held a short class meeting. While reprimanding Alex Chu and Ken's group, she also warned other students not to make similar mistakes. During the break, Ethan Vance, bored, grabbed a basketball and played with a few male classmates in the corridor outside. His basketball skills were average, but he was too handsome, and with the added bedroom eyes, his charm was off the charts. A casual move would send the surrounding girls' hearts fluttering, and they'd applaud enthusiastically. A few with weaker constitutions were almost overcome with excitement. A crowd of girls watched him, many of them quite good-looking, staring at him like he was a dreamboat. Although not as perfect as the female lead Chloe Sue, they were still top-tier, youthful beauties. Ethan Vance was sure that with just a flick of his finger, he could easily win over any of them. He could even take them all out tonight and score with the whole lot without a problem. This feeling, wasn't it incredibly exhilarating? But just as he was enjoying himself, Ethan Vance heard a lackey sneakily report that Chloe Sue was talking to Alex Chu in the stairwell. Ethan Vance instantly lost his playful mood. The surrounding female onlookers also lost their enthusiasm. Ethan Vance headed straight for the stairwell and soon heard Chloe Sue and Alex Chu's voices. "So, you're not planning to tell your family about this?" "If my family knew I was in a fight, it wouldn't be a big deal, it's not my first time. But if they knew I had to pay $30,000 for medical bills, I'd definitely get a beating. My dad's really strict." Alex Chu avoided eye contact, lying. His extremely sensitive self-esteem wouldn't allow the girl he liked to know his family was poor, so poor that even $30,000 was hard to come by.
$30,000 for medical expenses isn't a small amount. I can help.
Chloe Sue was very smart and saw through him instantly, but she didn't expose him.
Instead, she offered to help Alex Chu.
This was also why she had called Alex Chu out. In Chloe Sue's view, Ken and his group wanting to beat up Alex Chu was, to some extent, because of her. When she learned Alex Chu had to pay $30,000 for medical bills, her kind heart wanted to help him a little.
Even though Chloe Sue's impression of Alex Chu was merely that of a stranger, she still wanted to help Alex Chu.
Ethan Vance heard this and was practically speechless.
This damn protagonist aura was too powerful.
Chloe Sue's favorability towards Alex Chu was already at zero, yet she still elects Chu, saying she wanted to help him. It seemed that if he didn't crush the protagonist, Alex Chu would sooner or later max out Chloe Sue's favorability. By then, he himself would probably be not far from ruin and death.
No need, I have my own way to solve it, Alex Chu said.
Really? Chloe Sue was a bit skeptical.
Really?
I have a lot of pocket money saved up, all from New Year's and birthday gifts.
I can handle it.
Alex Chu lied again, but this time, his eyes didn't waver, exuding complete confidence. Hearing this, Ethan Vance's heart suddenly stirred, and a smile played on his lips.
This guy was planning to use his X-ray vision to make money.
At this moment, Ethan Vance also appeared in Alex Chu and Chloe Sue's line of sight.
Oh, Chloe Sue, what are you guys talking about?
Ethan Vance pretended it was a chance encounter.
Alex Chu has to pay medical expenses, right?
I was asking if he needed help.
After all, this incident happened partly because of me. Chloe Sue's favorability towards Ethan Vance was quite good, so she didn't hide anything. Is that so?
I can help too, Ethan Vance said.
No need. Don't you pretend to be nice, Alex Chu retorted coldly.
Why say that?
Ethan Vance also has good intentions, Chloe Sue frowned and said to Alex Chu.
Looks like you misunderstand me quite deeply, Ethan Vance sighed, then slowly asked, you think Ken and his friends blocked your path because I was jealous of you and Chloe Sue getting too close, so I had them teach you a lesson?
Isn't that right?
Alex Chu shot back.
Ha ha. Ethan Vance couldn't help but laugh. Let me ask you, what do you have that's better than me? Looks? Grades? Or family background? If we both pursued Chloe Sue, do you really think you could beat me? Where do you get the confidence to think I'd be jealous of you? You?
Alex Chu was choked speechless because the other party was telling the truth.
Looking at you, you must think I'm right. If that's the case, why would I find people to beat you up? Ethan Vance asked. Alex Chu's face flushed, unable to refute. Ding! Host successfully protagonist Alex Chu's self-confidence. Alex Chu's protagonist aura -10. Host's villain aura +10. This works too?
The sudden system notification pleasantly surprised Ethan Vance. He originally just wanted to mock Alex Chu, not expecting an accidental gain. Alex Chu's face was ugly. Ethan Vance temporarily couldn't be bothered with him and looked at Chloe Sue. Chloe Sue's expression was a bit because of him.
Chloe Sue, just now I was just making a hypothetical. Don't overthink it. I told you before. There are less than 100 days until the college entrance exams. I just want to focus on studying and haven't thought about dating for now. Besides, you're not the only school beauty. Even if I wanted to date, I wouldn't pick a classmate.
After all, a rabbit doesn't eat the grass near its own burrow.
More importantly, I really don't have those kinds of feelings for you.
Ethan Vance didn't want Chloe Sue to alienate him, so he spun a lie to stabilize her.
With his villain aura, lying was like a natural talent.
Tricking an 18-year-old girl was a piece of cake.
Chloe Sue heard this and didn't suspect much.
She just looked at Ethan Vance without speaking, pouting, her thoughts unknown.
Ding! Host caused female lead Chloe Sue to experience jealousy. Received 200 villain points. Alex Chu's protagonist aura -10. Host's villain aura +10.
A sudden notification.
It made Ethan Vance feel another burst of joy. He hadn't expected his few words to have such an effect. Chloe Sue was actually jealous? But thinking about it, it made sense. She was so beautiful, and this class heartthrob had just told her to her face that girls from other classes were more fragrant. Chloe Sue would naturally be jealous. But her jealousy wasn't because she liked Ethan Vance. It was entirely a natural reaction from a girl. Girls, they naturally love to compare themselves with each other. This trip yielded a good harvest. Ethan Vance quickly checked his attribute panel. Host, Ethan Vance. Combat power, 89 charm, 268 villain aura, 149.
Villain points, 300 skills, none. He remembered his initial villain aura was 99, it had increased by 50 in a short time.
This speed wasn't bad. Ethan Vance was in a good mood. Lunch break. In the classroom. Some tired students rested their heads on their desks. Some were whispering in small groups. Of course, there were also diligent students studying hard. But some were just pretending. Like Alex Chu. He held a book, but his mind wasn't on it, his eyes frequently glancing towards Chloe Sue. At this moment, Chloe Sue was engrossed in her work. Alex Chu didn't want to disturb her. After a long wait, Chloe Sue put down her pen, seemingly free. Alex Chu's spirits lifted, and he quickly stood up, intending to pretend to ask a question and use the opportunity to get closer to her. But his butt had just left the chair when he sat back down angrily. That damn Ethan Vance! Alex Chu cursed resentfully in his heart. I'll swear. Hey, can we switch seats? Ethan Vance walked up to Chloe Sue's deskmate and asked, as usual. The reason he used hey wasn't because Ethan Vance was impolite, but because he couldn't remember Chloe Sue's deskmate's full name, only that it was something like Wendy. In the original story, the villain Ethan Vance was set up as someone who, apart from Chloe Sue, didn't care about other girls. Not knowing Chloe Sue's deskmate's name was perfectly normal. After Ethan Vance transmigrated and absorbed the memories, he naturally didn't know Chloe Sue's deskmate's name either. But honestly, Chloe Sue's deskmate was actually very pretty, a beauty in her own right. If scored out of 100, Chloe Sue would be a 95, and her deskmate could get a 90. Hearing Ethan Vance's voice, the girl studying at her desk gently raised her head and saw a handsome boy's face. The boy's gaze made the girl's heart race. Afraid of her reaction being noticed, the girl quickly lowered her head again. My name is Wendy Lin, her voice tinged with disappointment. As she spoke, Wendy Lin immediately picked up her textbooks and made way for Ethan Vance. Oh, Wendy Lin, right? I'll remember, Ethan Vance replied politely. Then, he didn't even glance at Wendy Lin again. Although this Wendy Lin was very beautiful, a top-tier beauty, if she wasn't a female lead, he had no interest in her. He couldn't earn villain points from her. But Ethan Vance didn't know that this simple sentence, to Wendy Lin's ears, felt as sweet as honey. Next, she happily ran to Ethan Vance's seat. As usual, she tidied up the messy books on his desk. Admired the neat handwriting in his exercise book. Leaned on the desk, carefully inhaling the faint, lingering scent that belonged to him. Wendy Lin was somewhat infatuated. Just as Wendy Lin was lost in her reverie, an annoying voice from the side interrupted her. Wendy, I don't know how to do this math problem. Can you teach me? Wendy Lin turned her head and saw a round-faced boy. This boy's name was Tyler Chin. He was chubby, average-looking, and his grades weren't good either. Wendy Lin didn't really want to bother with Tyler Chin. She just wrote down the solution method and handed it to Tyler Chen to figure out himself. Then she dropped a line, I need to study. Tyler Chen couldn't very well keep asking questions and tactfully left. He dejectedly returned to his seat. Fatty, you like her, huh? His deskmate Alex Chu teased. No way, don't talk nonsense, Tyler Chen immediately denied. Don't pretend, I can see it. You have to keep it a secret, don't go blabbing. Don't worry, I'll tell you a secret too. I like Chloe Sue. We're even. Looks like we're in the same boat, Tyler Chen sighed. I'm not like you. I'll win Chloe Sue over sooner or later. She'll be my woman eventually, Alex Chu said confidently. Look at Ethan Vance and Chloe Sue always discussing studies together, talking and laughing. Maybe they'll spark something. What chance do you have? Tyler Chin glanced at the handsome boy and beautiful girl in the distance. That Ethan Vance is just a coward who doesn't own up to his actions. I'll expose his true colors sooner or later. Then Chloe Sue wouldn't even bother with him, Alex Chu said hatefully. Ethan Vance is really annoying, always making Wendy Lin give up her seat, disturbing her studies. You go for it, win Chloe Sue over. I'm rooting for you. Tyler Chen was also very annoyed. Thanks for the good words. If Chloe Sue becomes my girlfriend, I'll definitely get her to put in a good word for you with Wendy Lin. With their relationship, you'll have a chance to win Wendy Lin over too. Alex Chu patted Tyler Chen's shoulder. Good brother, you said it, remember. Tyler Chen immediately got excited, his fondness for Alex Chu increasing. Male friendships sometimes develop that quickly. Chloe Sue and Wendy Lin were not only deskmates but also very good friends, often seen together on campus. Chloe Sue's words carried considerable weight with Wendy Lin. You have to compensate those three idiots Ken, Tommy, and Rick $30,000 for medical expenses. That's not a small amount. Your parents will definitely be furious if they find out. Have you figured out what to say? Tyler Chen and Alex Chu's relationship had grown closer, and he immediately became concerned about Alex Chu's troubles. Tomorrow's a day off. I have my own way to solve it, Alex Chu said in a low voice. Ha, you're not planning to rob someone, are you? Tyler Chen was extremely surprised. He remembered Alex Chu's family was very poor. Of course not. I'm planning to win, Alex Chu said mysteriously. Gambling? That's too unreliable. Haven't you heard that 9 out of 10 gamblers lose? 9 out of 10 gamblers lose, but doesn't that mean one wins? I'm that 1/10, and I'm absolutely confident. It's just that I don't have enough capital yet. Alex Chu finished speaking, glanced at Tyler Chen, and suddenly asked, Do you have any money? Lend me some? I have 1,000. Whoa, you're that rich? What are you talking about? My family's just average. This is what I saved up for over half a year by scrimping and saving. I was planning to buy a nice gift for Wendy Lin's birthday this month. Lend me the money for an emergency. I'll definitely pay you back before Wendy Lin's birthday. Okay then. You have to pay me back on time. Don't worry, I'll definitely pay you back. If I can't, I'll chop off my head and give it to you for a stool, Alex Chu swore. The last day of classes finally ended. At the school gate, students left one after another. Their methods of going home were varied. Some rode bicycles, some took the bus, and some were picked up by private cars. A Cullinan parked at the school gate was particularly eye-catching. Amidst the envious gazes of countless boys and the adoring looks of girls, Ethan Vance slipped into the Cullinan. Young master, are we going straight home? The chauffeur, a man in his 40s, asked respectfully. Go to the nearest private detective agency first, Ethan Vance said. The driver was surprised for a moment but didn't ask any questions and started the car. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. He had been a driver for the Vance family for nearly 10 years, he understood this principle. A short while later, the Cullinan stopped at the entrance of a medium-sized detective agency. Ethan Vance went into the agency alone. He found the person in charge and handed over a simple file. This file was, of course, about Alex Chu, containing his photo and home address. The photo was obtained by Ethan Vance through a lackey. The home address was taken from student registration information. Tell Alex Chu. Report his whereabouts in real time. This was Ethan Vance's request. Initially, the people at the detective agency refused. Their reason, they were a legitimate detective agency, not some paparazzi. But when Ethan Vance directly offered triple the price, their expressions changed immediately, and they accepted the case. The so-called triple price was actually only $30,000. To Ethan Vance, a rich second generation, this was chump change. After leaving his mobile number, Ethan Vance left the detective agency. And the detective agency immediately sprang into action. Night fell. Vance family villa. In the opulent dining room, Ethan Vance dined alone.
There were over a dozen dishes on the table, incredibly sumptuous. They were prepared by a five-star hotel-level chef. The taste was impeccable. Several servants stood by, ready to attend to Ethan Vance's every need immediately. Ethan Vance was filled with emotion. In his previous life, he was a pauper. This life of a wealthy young master was something he could only dream of. And now, this dream had become a reality. His convenient parents weren't home. But this was also good. Ethan Vance temporarily didn't know how to face these convenient parents. After all, he was an orphan in his previous life. After transmigrating, he was suddenly here, with no real emotional connection to them. That convenient father was a big boss, managing various Vance family enterprises, busy every day. It was common not to see him for a month or two. And his convenient mother was a socialite from a wealthy family, also owning a company, busy every day. In her rare free time, she would go to high-end beauty salons for treatments. In his memory, Ethan Vance's opportunities to spend time with his convenient parents were pitifully few. As parents, they felt extremely guilty and, to make up for this shortcoming, doted on their child unconditionally. Whatever the child wanted, they would surely satisfy. In the original story, Ethan Vance initially fought the protagonist alone. Later, the entire Vance family, even his mother's maiden family, joined in fighting the protagonist, all because of this unreserved doting. But then again, rich second-generation villains being doted on by their elders, wasn't that a common trope? Think about it, if a rich second-generation villain wanted to harm the protagonist, and his parents said, "You rebellious son, how can you do such a wicked thing? Shut up. If you say one more word, I'll disown you." If that were the case, how could the plot progress? The next day, Ethan Vance, out for a drive in the Cullinan, received important information from the detective agency regarding Alex Chu's whereabouts. Alex Chu had entered an underground casino. Looks like my guess was right. Upon learning this news, Ethan Vance wasn't surprised. Having read many web novels, Ethan Vance knew that protagonists with X-ray vision who needed to make money quickly usually resorted to two methods. One was jade gambling, stone gambling, the second was casino gambling. Clearwater City didn't have a jade gambling market. To gamble on jade, one usually had to travel far. That was too troublesome. Ethan Vance directly had the driver head to the underground casino. About 15 minutes later, he arrived at his destination. Judging by the time, Alex Chu had already been gambling for a while. But Ethan Vance wasn't in a hurry. Alex Chu's family was clearly poor, his capital must be very limited. With little capital, winning $30,000 would definitely take some time. Furthermore, Alex Chu, as the protagonist, might not be a genius, but he certainly wasn't stupid. Even if he could win $30,000 in a short time, he wouldn't do it, as it would attract too much attention. Ethan Vance went to the chip exchange counter of the underground casino. A young woman dressed provocatively asked, "Handsome, how many chips would you like to exchange?" 500,000. 500,000. Are you sure? The young woman was instantly stunned. This underground casino wasn't very large, a customer exchanging 50,000 in chips at once was already considered a high roller. A customer exchanging 500,000 at once was someone she had never seen before. Swipe the card. Pin is 6 sixes. Ethan Vance didn't waste words and directly handed over his card. The young woman, with a try-it-and-see attitude, processed the transaction. Card swiped successfully. Really? The young woman was overjoyed, had a colleague take over her window, and came out herself to warmly receive Ethan Vance. Exchanging 500,000 in chips at once, this was a super high roller. And judging by his attire, he was probably a newly rich young master. This was a fat sheep. "Handsome, what would you like to play? I can make some recommendations for you." The young woman was like she had no bones, her whole body wanting to lean against Ethan Vance. But before she could touch him, Ethan Vance sidestepped. His eyes clearly showed disdain. The young woman was embarrassed for a moment, then straightened up again. "I don't like the games here. I want to bet my way." 500,000 in chips, winner takes all in one hand, Ethan Vance said. "Handsome, our place is small. A bet this big, I don't think any customer here will take it, the young woman said, surprised.
You can go ask your boss if he's interested.
The young woman immediately went to relay the message. A few minutes later, she returned and invited Ethan Vance to a private poker room. At the poker table sat a man with a goatee, on his left cheek was a long scar. He didn't look like someone to be trifled with.
Friend, I'll take the bet. How do you want to play?
The scarred man squinted at Ethan Vance. Ethan had someone bring in a fresh deck of poker cards. Let's play showdown poker, but just one card each. Highest card wins. This kind of game, if played fair, was purely a matter of luck. The scarred man stared at Ethan for a long moment, hesitated, then finally said, "All right." After shuffling, Ethan and the scarred man each dealt themselves a card. Ethan was calm and unhurried, not even glancing at his card. The scarred man, on the other hand, appeared composed, but inwardly he was a nervous wreck. He'd run casinos for years and gambled with plenty of people, but this was the first time he'd played a hand this big. The scarred man carefully flipped his card. When he saw it was an ace of hearts, he almost leaped out of his chair with joy. For Ethan to win, his card would have to be the ace of spades. But the odds of that were minuscule.
Your turn to flip. I don't believe your card is the ace of spades,
the scarred man declared. Ethan peeked at a corner of his card, his expression suddenly a bit odd. He hadn't expected his luck to be this good.
Too bad he wasn't here to actually win money. Looks like my luck's a bit off. You win, Ethan said, not even revealing his card, and pretended to angrily toss it back into the deck. Losing $500,000 in one go didn't faze Ethan. It was all house money anyway.
He still had over $300,000 left on his card. If he ran out, he could just call his convenient parents. In no time, another $1 million in spending money would be deposited. Across the table, the scarred man finally let out a full sigh of relief, overjoyed at having made $500,000 in an instant.
Friend, you play so big.
For a moment there, I thought you were a card sharp, here to bust my joint. I'm no card sharp, but I did just see a cheat walk into your establishment, Ethan said, seizing the opportunity to steer the conversation to his real purpose. This was his true goal. Losing the $500K was just to build some rapport. That way, talking would be easier.
My casino has rules. Anyone cheats gets a hand chopped off. Who's this cheat you're talking about?
I'll drag him out, and he won't be spared, the scarred man said, his voice filled with menace. You guys must have security cameras, right?
Of course, that's a must. Then lead the way?
Soon, the scarred man led Ethan to a surveillance room. Inside, there were over a dozen high-definition monitors displaying every gambling table, allowing them to see all the patrons. As long as a game was in progress, the surveillance footage was constantly monitored by dedicated staff. One reason was to prevent trouble, the other was to guard against cheaters.
Running a casino, reputation was paramount. They absolutely detested the existence of cheats. That's him. Ethan found Alex Chu's figure on one of the monitors. He was playing at a sick bow table.
Rewind the footage, see if there's anything unusual, the scarred man ordered. The surveillance room staff reviewed the footage frame by frame but found no trace of cheating. Friend, this guy you mentioned seems clean, the scarred man said, frowning. This is the star pupil of a top-tier card sharp. His cheating techniques are incredibly sophisticated. Even if you stood right next to him and watched carefully, you wouldn't notice anything, let alone by watching surveillance footage, Ethan bluffed. You can have someone check how much capital this guy came in with and how much he's won so far, Ethan suggested. The scarred man immediately had someone investigate.
The information came back quickly.
When Alex Chu arrived, he exchanged 1,200 in chips. He had played at 5 different tables but had consistently stuck to sick bow. He had played about 19 rounds so far. His record was 10 wins and 9 losses.
This data seemed normal. Alex Chu, trying not to attract attention, was indeed being very careful. But some things, no matter how careful, couldn't be hidden. He had won 16,000.
A normal win-loss record, yet he had won so much money. Clearly, he was winning big and losing small.
This kid's luck is way too good, isn't it?
The scarred man said, suspicious. Gambling luck was a strange thing. Sometimes, a patron would have an explosive lucky streak, winning all sorts of bets. The scarred man had seen this kind of situation before. His luck is indeed good. And I predict his luck will continue to be good until he's won at least over 30,000, Ethan said casually. What do you mean by that? The scarred man grew even more suspicious. I heard many cheats, to avoid risk, set rules for themselves. And his rule, I happen to know. Ethan noticed the scarred man's frown deepening and knew he was close. He pretended to look at his watch and continued, I ran into that cheat at another casino last time. Seeing him here today, I just mentioned it casually. It really has nothing to do with me. I have other business, so I'll be going. I'll come play again next time. After saying this, he ignored the scarred man's attempts to question him further and walked straight out of the casino. After Ethan left, the scarred man had his men keep a close eye on Alex Chu. Sure enough, just as Ethan had said, Alex Chu's luck was incredibly good. His chips kept piling up until he had won about 35,000, and then he finally stopped. He really was a cheat. At the entrance, stopped that kid in the white t-shirt with the buzz cut. The scarred man barked orders to his underlings over the walkie-talkie. At the chip exchange counter, Alex Chu's face was flushed, a barely suppressed excitement bubbling within him. He just counted his chips and knew he'd won 35,000. With this, the medical expenses could be settled, and he'd even have a few thousand left over for spending money. Actually, Alex Chu wanted to win a bit more, but being cautious, he was afraid of attracting unwanted attention and causing unnecessary trouble. Of course, having just tasted the sweetness of victory, he had no intention of stopping for good. He'd already decided to move to another casino and continue fleecing the sheep. With his X-ray vision, casinos were basically his personal ATMs. Getting rich couldn't be easier. I'm done playing. Cash me out, all of it. Alex Chu handed his chips to the young woman, but before she could even count them, 7 or 8 menacing-looking young men surrounded him. The scarred man also approached, his voice dark. Kid, you got the balls to cheat in my Tony Scarface Kong's joint? You tired of living? Me, cheat? How did I cheat? You pointed out, Alex Chu said, a little flustered, but he forced himself to remain calm. Although he had technically cheated, there was no way to prove it. That's what I should be asking you. The scarred man stared hard at Alex Chu, then barked at his underlings, grab him. Get the hell off me. Alex Chu wasn't weak in a fight, and he was a ruthless character. Seeing things go south, he launched a flying kick at Tony Kong's lower body. Tony Kong went down hard. The other underlings were startled and rushed to help their boss. The scene descended into chaos. Alex Chu threw a few more punches, knocking down 2 guys his way, then bolted for the door. Boss, you okay? A group of underlings helped Tony Kong up. Tony Kong clutched himself, wincing in pain. He'd never imagined a kid who looked barely 20 could be so vicious. After him. Get him back here. Tony Kong roared at his men. Just for cheating, Tony Kong would have at least chopped off one of Alex Chu's hands. Now, after being sucker-kicked, Tony Kong was determined to take at least another leg. A dark alley outside the casino. Ethan Vance, sitting in the Cullinan, saw someone dash out of the casino entrance. That disheveled figure, wasn't it Alex Chu? Behind him, 7 or 8 young men were yelling and chasing. In the midst of the chase, they all quickly disappeared from sight. About 5 minutes later, the 7 or 8 young men returned empty-handed. Clearly, Alex Chu had successfully escaped. Ethan Vance wasn't surprised by this outcome. Although Alex Chu's protagonist aura had diminished considerably, he was still the protagonist. How could he be caught so easily? Ding! Host successfully prevented protagonist Alex Chu from earning his first sum of money. Alex Chu's protagonist aura -20. Host's villain aura +20. Received 200 villain points. All that effort, and even spending $500,000, finally paid off. Ethan Vance happily checked his panel. Host, Ethan Vance combat power, 89. Charm, 268 villain aura, 169 villain points, 500. Skills, none. 500 villain points was just enough for another lottery draw, but Ethan Vance thought about it and restrained himself.
If he used all 500, he'd be back to 0.
If he encountered someone, a female lead or another important supporting character, he wouldn't have any villain points to check their information.
He'd save up a few hundred more before trying the lottery again. For the remaining day and a bit of the holiday, Ethan Vance kept a close watch on Alex Chu's movements.
After escaping Tony Kong's casino, because Tony Kong had sent out a warning to other establishments, Alex Chu didn't dare to try fleecing the sheep at other casinos.
Monday, back to school as usual. Ethan Vance whistled as he walked into the classroom.
Opening his desk, he found it stuffed full of letters.
Ethan opened a few and saw they were all love letters from girls.
Such were the troubles of a campus heartthrob. But reading love letters, it had to be said, felt pretty damn good. Each girl who wrote a love letter poured out her affection, using all sorts of flowery language to express her feelings, hoping for a response. Although Ethan enjoyed reading them, after going through a pile, he barely remembered any of the girls' names.
However, one unsigned love letter left a deeper impression.
And the handwriting felt rather familiar.
But Ethan Vance didn't dwell on it.
After reading the unsigned letter, he simply tossed it into his desk.
Elsewhere, Alex Chu also came to class.
But he looked terrible, clearly troubled.
Tyler Chen pulled Alex Chu aside to talk. "Did you win any money during the break?" Tyler Chen asked, a little nervously.
"I won over 30,000 at first, but then something unexpected happened. It's all gone," Alex Chu said, his face grim.
"Didn't you brag you were sure to win?
How did you lose?
So when can you pay me back that 1,000?
I still have to get Wendy Lin a gift at the end of this month."
Tyler Chen immediately became anxious. "Don't worry, Wendy Lin's birthday is still a while away, right?"
"I'll definitely find a way to pay you back," Alex Chu consoled him.
"You better." Tyler Chen was very unhappy. Male friendships, though they could form quickly, could also easily sour over women. Tyler Chen was head over heels for Wendy Lin.
He'd spent over half a year saving up that $1,000, sometimes even skipping meals. He'd endured so much, all to buy Wendy Lin a decent gift. If all this went down the drain because of Alex Chu, one could imagine how angry and furious Tyler Chen would be.
Boss Vance, Alex Chu and Tyler Chen almost came to blows. Ethan Vance had people keeping an eye on Alex Chu.
Any unusual activity was immediately reported to him.
Thus, right after Alex Chu and Tyler Chen's conversation, someone came to report. "What did they say?" Ethan Vance asked.
The lackey recounted the content of their conversation clearly to Ethan Vance. So, out of Alex Chu's 1,200 starting capital, 1,000 was borrowed from Tyler Chen.
Those two are pretty close, huh? Then this Tyler Chen is most likely a supporting character on the protagonist's side? Ethan Vance mused.
According to urban novel tropes, many protagonists had a chubby sidekick.
Tyler Chen's appearance fit the bill perfectly. System, check Tyler Chen's information. Ethan Vance wanted to confirm. Checking requires 100 villain points. Proceed? Yes. The interface quickly appeared.
Important supporting character, Tyler Chen, protagonist's camp, combat power, 69.
Charm, 57. Supporting character aura, none. Skills, none. Just as I thought. Ethan Vance confirmed, then immediately asked, "System, for all important supporting characters in the protagonist's camp, if I destroy their relationship, can I get villain points and aura points?"
Reply to host, "This operation will affect the original plot and can grant villain points and aura points as rewards."
Understood. Ethan Vance nodded silently, then began to ponder.
Tyler Chen was currently having some friction with Alex Chu, and the crux of the issue was Wendy Lin. So, he could start from there.
But how should he do it? Wendy Lin.
Just as Ethan Vance thought of her, he suddenly had a jolt. He picked up the unsigned love letter from before, a smile instantly forming on his lips.
No wonder the handwriting looked familiar. It was Wendy Lin's handwriting. Wendy Lin often stuck small study notes on her desk, and those notes had her handwriting. Ethan Vance and Wendy Lin often switched seats, so he would naturally have seen it. A secret admirer, huh? This makes things easier. Lunch break.
While Chloe Sue was away, Ethan Vance approached Wendy Lin. Chloe Sue was called by the teacher to grade papers, Wendy Lin said proactively.
Ethan Vance always came looking for Chloe Sue. Wendy Lin was used to it.
I came to find you, Ethan Vance smiled, his bedroom eyes fixed on Wendy Lin.
Wendy Lin's face instantly turned red. Find me for what? You wrote this, didn't you?
Ethan Vance pulled out the unsigned love letter he'd hidden behind his back and showed it to Wendy Lin. Wendy Lin jumped up in fright, hastily denying, "That's not my love letter, not mine."
Oh really? But the handwriting on this letter, how come it's identical to yours? Ethan Vance plucked a small note from Wendy Lin's desk for comparison. The handwriting was clearly from the same person. Wendy Lin knew she couldn't hide it anymore. If I've bothered you, I apologize. I'll never do it again.
I'm sorry. Her tone and posture were extremely subservient. That's how secret crushes were.
The more you liked someone, the more subservient your posture became.
From Ethan Vance's previous attitude, she knew he wasn't interested in her.
Any interaction they had was entirely because she was Chloe Sue's deskmate.
That love letter was just her unable to suppress her feelings, wanting to express them a little.
She hadn't even signed her name.
Wendy Lin, from beginning to end, never harbored even a sliver of hope. Your writing isn't bad, Ethan Vance casually praised, then leaned close to Wendy Lin's ear and whispered, after evening self-study tonight, I'll wait for you at the school gate.
But don't tell anyone.
Wendy Lin had her head bowed, prepared to receive indifference, even ridicule. But hearing the soft words by her ear, she was instantly stunned.
After evening self-study, he's waiting for me? What does that mean? Is it that meaning? Wendy Lin couldn't quite believe it, thinking she was dreaming.
But after pinching her thigh, the pain from her thigh clearly told her.
This wasn't a dream. Throughout the afternoon and evening self-study classes, Wendy Lin was immersed in this unshakable joy.
Chloe Sue noticed her deskmate would occasionally giggle to herself and asked curiously.
But Wendy Lin, of course, couldn't tell the truth.
Although she and Chloe Sue were best friends, the matter of her secret crush on Ethan Vance was deeply hidden in her heart. Besides, Ethan Vance had said not to tell anyone.
Wendy Lin was even less likely to say anything. In Wendy Lin's eager anticipation, the bell for the end of the last evening self-study session finally rang.
Wendy Lin didn't leave immediately but pretended to organize her textbooks, waiting until most people had left before wheeling her bicycle out.
School gate. Under the streetlight, a Cullinan was waiting.
Wendy Lin knew it was the car that specifically picked up Ethan Vance. She had a crush on Ethan Vance for so long, she secretly remembered everything related to him. The price of that Cullinan, Wendy Lin had looked it up online, seemed to be around 7 or 8 million.
Ethan Vance's family was really rich.
In contrast, her own family didn't even have a car worth $100,000. The gap between herself and Ethan Vance was like that between a commoner girl and a noble prince.
The gap wasn't just big, it was huge.
Wendy Lin lowered her head, feeling extremely inferior.
Inside the Cullinan, Ethan Vance also saw Wendy Lin's figure. He got out. Leave your bike at school. I'll take you somewhere. Where are we going? You'll know when we get there. Ethan Vance led Wendy Lin into the car. The Cullinan arrived at the entrance of a 5-star hotel. Ethan Vance helped Wendy Lin out of the car and told the driver to go back. What are we doing here?
Wendy Lin blushed, very nervous, and a little scared.
Studying together, of course, Ethan Vance said with a wink. Oh. Okay. Wendy Lin nodded blankly. Then, the two entered the hotel. Ethan Vance had booked a room during the day.
After getting the key card at the front desk, he directly went to the room with Wendy Lin. The room was a presidential suite, very luxuriously furnished. Naturally, the price wasn't cheap either.
One night cost $18,000.
After entering the room, Wendy Lin was very reserved and awkward. She took out her exercise book and was about to do homework at the table. Ethan Vance directly snatched her exercise book and tossed it aside.
Booked such a nice room, really just to do homework? Don't be ridiculous. How could that be possible? You like me a lot, don't you? Ethan Vance asked. Wendy Lin shyly nodded. How much do you like me? Ethan Vance stared at Wendy Lin with those deadly charming bedroom eyes. I wrote you a love letter, it's all in there, Wendy Lin said, looking at her toes, her face beet red. As long as you can be my girlfriend, you're willing to do anything for me, right? Ethan Vance summarized the main idea of the love letter. Wendy Lin nodded. Ethan Vance felt it was about time and tentatively said, I'm not afraid to tell you, I'm not a good guy, because I don't plan on having just one girlfriend. Even so, will you still like me? Wendy Lin was surprised for a moment, stunned for about 5 seconds, then still nodded affirmatively, yes, I like you. Ethan Vance felt he had roughly gauged Wendy Lin's level of acceptance, or rather, the extent of her crush on him. To put it nicely, it was low self-esteem. To put it bluntly, she was a simp. But this suited Ethan Vance's intentions. Too many girls like me, and many are beautiful. I have too many choices, you don't have any advantage. But if you want to be my girlfriend, I can satisfy you. However, I have a few conditions. If you violate any of them, we're through. Ethan Vance finished speaking and waited for Wendy Lin's reply. Tell me. This was something Wendy Lin had waited for countless times, she naturally had to seize the opportunity. First, our relationship is not public. Second, besides you, I can have other girlfriends, but you must be devoted and loyal to me. Third, when I'm pursuing other girls, you can't interfere. If necessary, I might even need your help. Fourth, only I can dump you, you can't dump me. Fifth, I haven't thought of it yet, I'll add it when I do. After Ethan Vance finished, Wendy Lin's eyes widened, and she even looked a little angry. These demands were truly outrageous. The boy she had liked for so long turned out to be a scumbag of scumbags. Ethan Vance continued, of course, whenever I have time, I'll try to date you. I'll give you gifts on holidays and your birthday, and give you pocket money on time. Don't ask how much, in short, you'll definitely be satisfied. Also, your grades aren't bad, but you're a bit short of getting into a key university. I can help you with that, I'll definitely get you into your ideal university. And, as long as you don't violate my requirements, even if I dump you because I'm tired of you, I'll still arrange a job for you after you graduate college with a monthly salary of at least 50,000. I'm done. If you're not willing, the door is over there. Feel free. If you are, then, stay. Wendy Lin hesitated for a few seconds, then walked towards the door. But she didn't leave, instead, she locked it from the inside. Then she made a call home, saying she was staying at a female classmate's house and wouldn't be back tonight. If it were a normal relationship, Wendy Lin knew it was impossible between them. The gap between them was too large. But being with this boy in front of her was a dream she had cherished for a long time. This dream could now become a reality. So what if she had to be a little subservient? Besides, he had promised her so many benefits. Why not agree? Even if it couldn't last, at least it would give her a beautiful memory to cherish for a lifetime. That way, her youth wouldn't be regrettable. Seeing Wendy Lin's choice, Ethan Vance smiled. To destroy the relationship between Alex Chu and Tyler Chen, this pawn, Wendy Lin, was too important. Ethan Vance had to keep this pawn firmly in his hand and ensure she wouldn't betray him. Her heart alone wasn't enough. Was he being a scumbag? Absolutely. But this was just the basic quality of a villain. Haven't you seen? Villains who stop at nothing to deal with protagonists still end up with tragic fates. If Ethan Vance acted like a good guy and used normal methods, how could he fight the protagonist? He might as well just wait to die. After enjoying a moment of tenderness. Am I your first girlfriend? Wendy Lin snuggled into his embrace, asking suggestively. The first. Wendy Lin was overjoyed upon hearing this. She was an innocent young girl. All her life, she had only liked Ethan Vance. Before this, she hadn't even held hands with a boy. That Tyler Chen likes you, you know that? Ethan Vance suddenly said. Really? No wonder he asks me questions every day. So annoying. If he asks me again tomorrow,
I'm definitely ignoring him, Wendy Lin complained.
No, just answer his questions normally, like you would any ordinary classmate.
When you're answering his questions, a girl might come looking for you, asking you to repay $1,000. At that time, you need to look a bit pitiful, say you don't have the money, and ask her to give you some more time, Ethan Vance said mysteriously.
Why? Wendy Lin didn't understand. Ethan Vance frowned. I like a more obedient girlfriend, not one who always asks why.
But I'm very obedient as a kitten, Wendy Lin said, her eyes full of Ethan Vance, smiling sweetly.
Kitten? Yes, meow. That expression was simply too cute.
Wendy Lin looked demure, like a bookworm, but unexpectedly had such an adorable side. Ethan Vance felt like he had really struck gold.
He had to get to class earlier tomorrow. He had to seize the time. The next day.
After Ethan Vance took Wendy Lin for breakfast at the 5-star hotel, they took the Cullinan to school. When they were close to the school, Ethan Vance had Wendy Lin get out first.
The two of them entered the school one after the other.
When they met in the classroom, Wendy Lin was indeed very obedient, following Ethan Vance's instructions.
They interacted as usual, like ordinary classmates. As if what happened yesterday never occurred. During the break, Chloe Sue and Wendy Lin went to the restroom together. Wendy, why are you walking so awkwardly?
It looks really strange, Chloe Sue said curiously. I sprained my ankle on the way home from evening self-study yesterday, so it's a bit uncomfortable to walk, Wendy Lin replied with a smile.
Oh, is it serious?
Let me take a look for you, Chloe Sue said with concern.
No need, it's just a small thing. I've applied medicine, it'll be fine in a few days. Alright then, I'll help you walk. During lunch break, Tyler Chen came over with a grin to ask Wendy Lin for help with his studies.
She didn't want to bother, but remembering what Ethan Vance had said, she patiently explained the problem. A moment later, a girl from another class came into their classroom, pressing Wendy Lin to repay $1,000.
Wendy Lin did as Ethan Vance instructed, pretending to be pitiful, getting the other party to give her some leeway.
The girl reluctantly agreed, then, after a threatening remark, left. Tyler Chen saw all this and was naturally heartbroken. He directly called Alex Chu out to the corridor outside the classroom, urging Alex Chu to repay the $1,000.
But where would Alex Chu get the money?
Tyler Chen was desperate to help Wendy Lin, and for a moment, he seemed to lose his mind, so agitated he almost fought Alex Chu. The place where they argued wasn't far from the teacher's office. Ethan Vance and Chloe Sue, the two top students, were currently asking their teacher about a relatively profound math problem. They could vaguely hear the argument outside. Ethan Vance could recognize one of the voices as Alex Chu's. Clearly, the conflict between Tyler Chen and Alex Chu, after his secret manipulation, had directly erupted.
Ding! Host successfully destroyed the relationship between protagonist Alex Chu and important supporting character Tyler Chen. Received 200 villain points. Alex Chu's protagonist aura -10. Host's villain aura +10.
Ethan Vance got his wish, reaping a decent reward. He checked his attribute panel.
Host, Ethan Vance combat power, 89 charm, 268. Villain aura, 179 villain points, 600 skills, none. Alex Chu's current situation was very precarious.
Ethan Vance planned to kick him while he was down, adding more fuel to the fire.
First move.
He asked the private investigator for the video footage of Alex Chu going to the casino. Then he posted it on the school's online forum. As a high school senior, gambling was explicitly forbidden by school rules, an offense no less serious than fighting. Alex Chu had just been disciplined, and now he'd committed another major offense.
Whether he could even stay in school was probably a question. Second move. Tony Khan's underlings were still looking for Alex Chu. But they didn't know Alex Chu's background, so finding him wasn't easy.
Ethan Vance was, of course, very willing to help with this. He couldn't stay in school, and people were after him outside of school. Alex Chu's head was probably spinning. After Ethan Vance made these arrangements, he could already imagine the exciting scene of Alex Chu being chased by a gang of thugs with weapons after evening self-study.
At dusk, Ethan Vance was playing basketball with classmates.
Around the basketball court, countless adoring female fans were cheering for him. At this moment, a police car drove onto the campus. The car stopped by the side of a campus road. Two men in heroic-looking uniforms got out. One of the men held a commendation banner. Ethan Vance merely glanced at it and paid no further attention. Not long after, the principal's voice came over the school's public address system. The gist was that a student from their school had reported a group of illegal casino operators. This had led to the arrest of these criminals. The police department had sent a commendation banner and a $40,000 reward. The principal also encouraged students, on the premise of ensuring their own safety, to report any illegal activities they encountered. Upon hearing this, Ethan Vance almost cursed out loud on the spot. Although the principal on the PA didn't mention the student's name, Ethan Vance was 1,000% sure it was Alex Chu. Besides him, there was no one else. Tony Khan's ancient casino had definitely been open for many years. It had stood for so long. And now, after Alex Chu reported it, they were all arrested. Even more outrageous, Alex Chu received a $40,000 reward. The $30,000 for Ken and his group's medical expenses was covered. The $1,000 owed to Tyler Chen was also covered. The demerit Alex Chu previously received would also be completely offset by this meritorious act. Ethan Vance's painstaking plans were shattered in an instant. Protagonist aura, so damn powerful. Evening self-study was about to begin, and most students had returned to their classrooms. Alex Chu's dejected expression from before had vanished, replaced by a look of proud excitement. Homeroom teacher Ms. Jenna Song suddenly entered the classroom and called Alex Chu to her office. For Alex Chu's safety, the principal hadn't announced his name. But as Alex Chu's homeroom teacher, Ms. Jenna Song definitely knew the inside story. Her suddenly calling Alex Chu to the office now was most likely to praise him. Ethan Vance immediately couldn't sit still. Ms. Jenna Song was one of the female leads. According to web novel conventions, when the protagonist and a female lead meet alone, something is bound to happen. Ethan Vance picked up an English test paper and left the classroom. In the office, Ms. Jenna Song had just sat down and spoken a few words of praise to Alex Chu when someone arrived. Ethan Vance scanned the office and immediately sensed a strong cliché vibe. This was a shared office for 10 teachers, but at this moment, only Ms. Jenna Song was present. If Ethan Vance hadn't come, wouldn't Ms. Jenna Song and Alex Chu be alone in the office? The protagonist aura was truly formidable. It could invisibly create an environment conducive to the protagonist wooing girls. Ms. Jenna Song had finished her praise. Seeing her good student Ethan Vance come to ask questions about the English test paper, she naturally answered whatever he asked. Alex Chu watched from the side. If looks could kill, Ethan Vance would probably have been killed 100,000 times. Compared to the somewhat naive Chloe Su, the stunningly beautiful Ms. Jenna Song had a different kind of allure. Alex Chu had fantasized about this beautiful female teacher countless times. This time, he finally had a chance to be alone with the beautiful teacher, and now Ethan Vance had to come and ask questions. How could Alex Chu not be angry? Ethan Vance deliberately dragged out the time, all the way until the bell for evening self-study rang. He was still asking questions. Evening self-study was also for studying, and asking English questions was also studying. It was highly inappropriate for Alex Chu to continue standing there. He left the office and headed towards the classroom. But in less than a few minutes, Alex Chu also came with an English test paper. Clearly, he hadn't given up and wouldn't let go of the opportunity to be alone with Ms. Jenna Song. During evening self-study, students were free to study their lessons and could also go to the office to ask teachers questions. Those who didn't come to ask questions were usually top students. Students with poor or average grades usually didn't have the nerve. Alex Chu had cheated on the last test and only achieved mediocre results. Now he was here again, his face was clearly quite thick. An English test paper, no matter how long, had its limits. After a while, Ethan Vance had no more questions and had to stop. Alex Chu seized the opportunity, wanting to ask Ms. Jenna Song questions. Alex, Ms. Song is tired. We have the same test paper, right? I've done all of it. If there's anything you don't understand, I can teach you, Ethan Vance said solicitously. Alex Chu was naturally unhappy and was about to say, "Don't bother." But before the words left his mouth, Ms. Jenna Song interjected, "Ethan Vance is right. He knows all these problems. Alex, since Ethan Vance has said so, let him teach you." Ms. Jenna Song had been talking to Ethan Vance for over 20 minutes, and her mouth was dry. She really wanted to rest. Since Ethan Vance offered to take over, she was naturally willing. Alex Chu was 1,000 times unwilling, but in front of Ms. Jenna Song, he couldn't show his displeasure and gritted his teeth, saying to Ethan Vance, "Thanks a lot." "You're welcome," Ethan Vance replied playfully. In a corner unseen by Ms. Jenna Song, their eyes met, and sparks seemed to fly. The two left the office. Alex Chu was furious and strode quickly towards the classroom. That look clearly indicated he wouldn't be asking Ethan Vance any questions. Naturally, Ethan Vance had no intention of answering him either. Ding! Host successfully sabotaged protagonist Alex Chu's chance to be alone with female lead Ms. Jenna Song. Received 200 villain points. Hearing the system's notification, Ethan Vance chuckled. He leisurely walked towards the classroom. But as he rounded a corner, he almost bumped into the PE teacher. The PE teacher's name was Mr. Ryan Tanner, about 30 years old, a muscular guy. He was carrying a large, opaque bag, which he almost dropped. Mr. Ryan Tanner was very protective of this large bag and was therefore very angry, about to scold whichever student was so careless. But when he saw it was Ethan Vance, he immediately swallowed his words. This student, he couldn't afford to offend. The PE teacher forced a smile at Ethan Vance and immediately turned away. A faint fragrance lingered in the air. Ethan Vance sniffed and immediately recognized it as the scent of roses. It wasn't hard to guess. The opaque bag Mr. Ryan Tanner was carrying contained roses. Ethan Vance turned to look at Mr.